You all have been terribly patient. Thank you so much. Everybody feeling okay now? So hello again, my name is Jessica Rose, and I'm going to be talking to all of you about burnout and balance today. And you may be saying, Jess, because we're cool, we're on a first name basis. You've just gotten an introduction, but what do you do? And yes, I do a lot of work in educational advocacy and technology. And these days I'm doing a little bit of work on a sort of secret stealth project, working on sort of better web writability. But what I do is a little bit boring compared to what we're going to be talking about today. Today, I want to be talking to you about burnout. And there are 100 plus of you. Hello, everybody. You may be asking rhetorically, well, why are we talking about burnout anyway? Everything that's going on, we work in technology. Maybe we want to talk about really focused things. Maybe we want to talk about sketching. And I might lovingly push you via the internet to consider that looking at burnout is very important. You're not going to be able to do incredible things in technology or in art or in social sciences if you're burned out. But even more than that, it's true, you're not going to get great work done if you're burned out. But you're more important than your quality of work. I was a teacher before I got into education, and I'm absolutely obsessed with the idea of the human brain. Your brain is not like a small, it's not that your brain is small. Everyone's brain is a relatively small, happy little bag of meat that just sends you the chemical impulses that give you everything you love, everything you've ever been afraid of, everything you've ever dreamed about, is your brain giving you these chemicals to make things happen. It's amazing. Your brain wants what's best for you. Unfortunately, it's relatively easy to almost break your brain a little bit. And burnout's one of those ways that can happen. I think it's incredibly important to talk about this right now because I don't know if you all have noticed as well, but it's 2020 and there's a lot of everything going on at the moment, eh? I got into the idea of burnout after getting very burned out myself. And I'm really interested in the idea, like the field of cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology is a field of psychology that was really popular in the 60s. And it's back when psychologists decided that they wanted to start talking about psychological processes, structures of the mind, structures of the brain, as though they're computers, which is pretty cool. And there are two concepts from cognitive psychology that we're going to look at today. One of those is working memory. And that's going to seem really familiar. That's the total capacity your brain has right now. That's how much think room you've got in your dome. And the other complementary concept we're going to be talking about today is cognitive load. And that's how much of your working memory, how much of that think space that you're using on processes right now. We cool? Cool. And your working memory changes. You don't have the same amount day in, day out. Let's say it's when were things okay? Let's say it's 2014. 2014 was a good year for me. And you went to bed early and you had a good breakfast and you exercised and you did all of those things that scientists say you're supposed to do. Maybe you've got a really remarkable amount of working memory to work from today. But if you've had maybe a difficult day and maybe stuff is weird and maybe it's 2020, you're the same person, but you're going to have a lot less to work with. And let's say you're stressed or exhausted or in pain or in crisis, or you're a child or you've got a cognitive impairment that's giving you a lot less to work with overall or right now. Everybody's got different amounts of working memory, not just amongst the different variants amongst the population, but also you get a little bit less or a little bit more depending on what else is going on for you right now. And this gets even more complicated. I've got some root beer as a prop because I quite like root beer. What happens when you've got that working memory and you start adding your cognitive load into it and say, okay, well, I'm giving a talk right now. That's got to eat up some cycles, right? And then I'm trying to remember the next slide. That's going to take up a little bit of working memory. I'm really worried about this thing in my inbox that I haven't quite finished up yet. Oh gosh, and I've got like this like personal email that I've got to do that is just a nightmare. And I've got accounts that I've really got to finish, and they're just not going to happen. And you can just fill up quite quickly. As you add more and more cognitive processes to your working memory, you're adding more and more things that you need to sort of batch process with the amount of working memory you have. I'm going to drink root beer while we chat about this. And that's super okay. Keep in mind as well that the closer you get to maxing this out, the more working memory that you've taken up, the sort of more challenging things get. When you're maxed out, you're maxed out. Say, okay, let's take this down to fundamentals. What even is burnout? You jumped right into this talk and said, I'm going to talk to you about burnout. But maybe my dear listener or my dear listeners have never heard of it, or blessedly have never experienced it themselves. So burnout is an occupational concept that's been around for a while. And occupational burnout was first studied in the caring professions, in nursing and in teaching. And research around occupational burnout defines it as exhaustion. It is when you are tired. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's when you're emotionally and physically exhausted. And it's when you're emotionally and physically exhausted from stress that feels long-term and unavoidable. Very excitingly, the best one here, not only does occupational burnout mirror the symptoms of serious mental illnesses like depression, but it can also trigger them. Isn't this great? Isn't this exciting? Isn't everything just fine? You say, Jess, thank you so much for telling me about burnout. That sounds like it sucks. But what can I do about this? How do I know if this impacts me? I'm tired. I'm tired right now. Fab. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a survey. Not like a survey. We're going to talk about detecting burnout. But saying, hey, raise your hand, both doesn't really work in a online environment. And also, this is terribly personal. So if I was like, hey, everybody say hello in Zoom when you have this like symptom of burnout, you don't want to do that. So instead, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and just feel that tiny cold twinge that I felt whenever you hear a symptom that describes you. You can keep track of how many of these apply to you, but we'll go ahead and we'll sort of look at what these scores mean in a minute. My lovely, lovely audience, have you found yourself being cynical or critical or maybe even mean at work? Love it? Love it? Not at all, really? Are you finding that you're having to absolutely drag yourself to work, hopefully to work like remotely these days? And then like once you're there, you've got trouble getting started on work. No, me neither, never, never. Have you found that you're becoming irritable or impatient with your coworkers and your customers? I think what this question is are you just a little tiny bit over people right now? I hate this question actually, but do you lack the energy to be consistently productive? Of course, I care more about you being happy and you being healthy than you sort of producing capital for your boss or your company or even yourself. But like, are you having a hard time getting stuff done? Are you just sitting blankly in front of your computer or blankly in front of your books? Oof, this is a big one. Are you having a problem feeling satisfaction from your achievements? Are you not seeing your own wins? Oof, and that's a hard one, isn't it? Are you a little bit over your job? And this is especially hard when it's 2020, the world has ended, you probably shouldn't quit your job. But if you're very, very over it, make a little mental tick in this box. Are you using food or drugs or alcohol to change the way you feel or to numb the way you're feeling? Oof. And this is, again, a really hard question, because is it the apocalypse or is it burnout? But have your sleep habits or your appetite radically changed recently? This one was a hard question for me, because like I am a lady of a certain age, so I think some of these just happen with time. But if you're troubled by unexplained, so not just getting old, headaches or backaches or weird body stuff, this is another time we're just going to tick that off. Fab, we've gotten to the end of our checklist. And you may be sitting there and saying like, okay, well, I'm really over people, fair, fair. I am staring blankly at my computer. And I do work 20 meters from my fridge now. So my eating habits have changed. Maybe I've got 1 or 2 or 4. Exciting news. This is the Mayo Clinic checklist for occupational burnout. And by their scoring, if you've actually said yes to 1 or more of these, you might be at risk for serious occupational burnout. Yay? Not great, eh? You say, wow, Jess, thank you so much. This is so fun. You've told me about burnout. You've told me that it's miserable. And then you've given me a checklist, which may well, especially in the dawn of the end of the world, suggest to me that I'm suffering from occupational burnout. That sucks. Why are you giving me this talk? It's cool. Be cool. You might be asking, what can I do about this? We're going to fight a bit. So I want to talk to you. We've defined what burnout is. We've done the checklist. And now I want to talk to you about burnout recovery. The first thing I'm going to say is, I am absolutely not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. I would be a terrible doctor. I would give you a glass of root beer and a weird pep talk and tell you to walk it off. Like, please, if you have said yes to many of these, or if you feel that you may be at risk for any mental or physical health challenges, including burnout, please talk to a health advocate and talk to a doctor. Absolutely get good medical advice that is not a happy lady who wants what's best for you on the internet. After that caveat, I'm going to warn you that recovering from burnout is going to take a long time, and that's okay. One of the exciting things about 2020 is we've all got a little bit more time than we had a little while ago. Or maybe just fewer distractions. Recovering from burnout is going to take a lot longer than it feels like it should. I'm sorry. And when I talk to folks about burnout, there are really sort of 2 audiences of people I'm talking to. And the first audience of folks who I sometimes encounter are folks who have the financial and have the social means to just take a big stretch of time off work. And then we've got folks who can't. If you can afford to not work for a considerable amount of time and focus on rest and focus on recovery, I have no additional advice for you. I strongly recommend, like, please do talk to your doctor, but then spend some time doing whatever rich people do with your time. Like, spend more time, I guess, not on your boat, but like spend more time with your horses or with, I don't know, what other rich people hobbies are. Like, if you've got the means and the support to take that time off, yeah, I don't have a lot of insight into what your life is like, but take that time and focus on recovery. For the rest of us who live in a larger system that requires work to live, I'm going to talk to you about things that you can do or ways that you can manage your life when you can't stop doing everything. If you can't stop your job, if you can't stop your life around you, let's look at things you can do to sort of better manage in context. The first thing I'm going to suggest is to do less, but in ways that won't immediately damage your life, and ideally in ways that won't damage your life longer term. You probably don't have to finish that email to your aunt. You probably do need to pay your taxes. You probably need to show up at work. You probably don't have to get in that weird internet argument with your sister on Facebook. Like emotionally triaging, looking for what absolutely must get done and what just feels urgent right now. Drop whatever it is that is out there that isn't going to hurt you. You can get to it later if it's important. If it's not, that's great. I'm going to encourage you to outsource where possible. And this can be folks who've got the financial means to have your groceries delivered. Please don't call a cleaner to your house in the middle of the end of the world, but if you can pay someone to help you with an online task, if you can, in my case, hire an artist to help you with your slides. And you can also outsource using your social capital and say like, hey, I'm going to ask my friends, I'm going to ask my family, I'm going to ask people I love if they can help me with these tasks that I need to do, that if I drop them, they'll damage my life. This is my favorite advice. I can't make people take my advice, but I want folks to consider doing this, even if they're not burned out. If it's not silly and if it's not embarrassing, feel free to just say no at your computer. The absolutely life-changing power of saying no to stuff. I often find that there are folks who are out there who just really want to help, and they really want to help everyone. And it gets to a point where it's really hard to say no. It's going to be okay. You can't help everyone, and you can't help anyone if you're so burned out that you're going to damage your own ability to do things. Practice with the easy things. Oh, hey, Jess, can you babysit next week? Oh, gosh, no. Hey, I'm moving. Can I get some help? Wow, I'd love to. If you need a script for saying no, my favorite is, I'm so sorry, but that just won't work for me. It's hard to argue with, and you don't have to lie. If you're worried about what's going to happen to other people if you're not helping them, I'm going to redirect you to what's going to happen to you if you're not looking out for yourself. And if you don't put on your emotional life mask, if you're not taking care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to serve other people. I'd love to encourage you to take care of yourself for your own sake. But if you're really into helping other people, I'm going to guilt you by telling you the only way you're going to be able to keep helping people is if you take care of yourself. This is fantastic. I'd like to encourage you, if you're burned out, to emotionally invest selectively. And this sounds very wishy-washy. This sounds very self-help book. Have any of you heard, and maybe you all use them, has anybody ever heard of mom swears? For those of you who haven't, mom swears are when you or someone else or a mom absolutely has a swear word in mind, and they would like you to know exactly what they mean, but they're not going to say it. They're going to go ahead and keep this polite and keep this appropriate for the audience. That in mind, I'm going to enjoin you that you can only give a heck about so many things. When you're presented with something that begs emotional investment, is this something you really want to spend your hecks on? If someone's wrong on the internet, or someone's annoying in a shop, or if someone's just real wrong in a way that begs your involvement, I'd beg you to go ahead and count how many hecks you have left. If you've got 3 and someone else asks you, hey, I've got this controversial opinion about something that's not that important, you don't really have to do that. There's gonna be folks you can argue with on the internet later. Just let it sit there. We've talked briefly about outsourcing, but just generally asking for help is going to be so important. It's okay for things not to be okay. People, especially now, are going to understand. Saying, and if you're in a position where you can say, I'm a bit burned out right now, I can't, or I'm at capacity, I can't, or it's the end of the world, no, can I get some help with this? I think you're going to find a lot of people really exciting to jump in with you. Spend some time where you can, doing things that let you feel like you're recharging. I've talked to folks about burnout, and some folks are like, oh, wow, I'm really into playing board games with my friends, maybe online these days. If you're into reading, that's fantastic. A socially distanced run. Maybe you're playing a lot of Animal Crossing. This is not you wasting your time if you're burned out. This is you spending that time and getting that back. And I want you to practice forgiveness. You're burned out, you're tired, you're probably screwing a lot of things up right now. And that's okay. It's okay that it's not okay. Get used to forgiving yourself. What is working right now? What isn't working right now? What can you let go and be okay with? And I'd also encourage you just not to be a jerk. You're burned out, you're annoyed, everything's weird, but you probably still have to be nice to people. It's gonna make your recovery and it's gonna make your life a lot easier longer term. Just to recap, you're going to need to do less. You're gonna need to do a lot less. You're gonna need to dramatically reduce your stressors. And I'm gonna beg you now and forever to go ahead and selectively invest your energy. You say, but Jess, isn't it the responsibility of businesses? Shouldn't my manager, their stakeholders, and really the industry writ large be responsible for making sure that I'm not sacrificing my health for their productivity? Yeah, hon, I agree. This is a fantastic rebuttal. It should be. It absolutely, positively should be the responsibility of your managers, of your employers, of the industry at large. It should be the industry's job to be focusing on sustainability. But I haven't seen any big signs that that's going to happen. If you're in an environment where folks aren't looking out for you and aren't taking care of you, I beg you to take care of yourself and prioritize that. We've talked about burnout, and I want to take a little bit of a detour, a little bit of an embarrassing detour. And I want to tell you about maybe something that's a weird upside of burnout, a secret superpower you can get sort of midway through your recovery phase, once stuff starts getting a little bit easier. And the upside to burnout is that after everything's terrible, after things start getting a little bit better, if you've practiced that at selective emotional investment, you might get a weird superpower. One of these is, you've got the perfect excuse. Jess, how's it going? Do you know what? We're moving next week. And like moving, no one likes to help you move. We're moving next week. We're having a party with pizza. I'm like, don't have a party right now, so this isn't a great example. Come and help us move for beer and pizza. I'm so sorry. I've been really burned out and I've got to focus on me. Is not a lie. It is an excuse that someone would be a jerk to push back against. And you have no guilt and no blockers as you sit down to spend the weekend on the couch with your own pizza, not sweating lugging boxes. You also can, or you also might, get to be just a little bit bulletproof. I want to tell you a story about somebody at an event relatively recently. not too recently, back when I was super burned out, someone came up to me and they said, "Hey, Jess, oh my God, I haven't seen," I'm saying, "Hey, Jess," a lot this talk, many rhetorical joiners. "Jess, I haven't seen you for ages. How are you doing? Wow." And then this beautiful person who is relatively young and like has so much to live for stood there in front of God and everyone, and they said, "Wow, I didn't know you were pregnant. Congratulations." No. I imagine that everybody watching this already knows that you should probably never guess that someone else is pregnant. But I wasn't, and I haven't been. And before burnout, when I had all of that emotional energy and all of those hecks to give, I might have wondered, oh gosh, have I put on weight? Is this dress unflattering? Is this outfit not working for me? Which is like not true. You can't see, but I've got pockets and it's great. Is this me? Should I be worried? But post burnout, I only had so many hecks to give. And tallying them, I also knew that I didn't want to go to jail. That a murder right then at an industry event probably wasn't what I wanted to do with my time. So instead of being unhappy with myself or being self-conscious or being worried, I went ahead and I tallied how many of those hecks I had and said, wow, no, not too many, not today. And instead of being worried or being angry or having a little bit of a fight, oh, I may not have mentioned, I was a teacher before I moved into education. And if I can give you one gift that you can carry with you throughout your life, it's that the most devastating thing you can do when you disapprove of something is give someone a solid, unbroken 3-second pause before responding in an even tone. Jess, I didn't know you were pregnant. Oh, I'm not. And then you just get to walk away. Those 3-second pauses are something that I promise you, the people you give them to will think about forever. And you, yeah, post burnout, once you've gotten through a little bit of it, once you've really decided where to selectively emotionally invest, it leaves you, or can leave you, very, very slightly bulletproof. That your brain being a little bit broken right now and making you make adaptations that treat you better and making you make adaptations that make you take better care of yourself might be a secret upside to burnout not being exactly what you need, but not being the end of the world, even when it is the end of the world. Thank you so much. If you need to catch me, I'm happy to not argue with you online, but I live on Twitter there. There's my website, and there's where you can email me if you want me to email you back sometime at a later date.